Alex Eala, the nation's darling, no, diba? Yan. So,
Pick it up for a moment. A green tin. Or a green sachet. The kind that fits easily into a child's hand. The kind a mother tears open before sunrise while a school uniform is still being ironed in the next room. The kind that has sat on kitchen shelves across the Philippines for generations. In the Philippines, Milo is not simply a product. It is part of the furniture of everyday life. For nearly 50 years, it has been stirred into cups of milk before school, before practice, before early morning races and weekend tournaments. It has fueled the dreams of children who imagine becoming something bigger than themselves: a runner, a swimmer, a fighter, a basketball player, a champion of any competition where the trophies were small but the pride felt enormous. And on February 22, 2026, inside the fashion hall of SM Mega Mall, that familiar green tin found a new face. Her name is Alex Eala. She is 20 years old. And as of this week, she is the world number 35 women's tennis player on the planet. In the same year that Milo celebrated its 50th anniversary in the Philippines, the brand made a decision about what its next chapter would look like. It chose her. To understand why that choice carries so much weight, you first have to understand what Milo represents in Filipino culture. Because Milo is not the Philippine version of Gatorade. It is not simply a sports drink. It is an institution. It is the National Milo Marathon, now entering its 50th edition. It is the sports clinics that have operated in barangay gyms, public schools, and provincial communities for decades. It is a system that has quietly helped develop generations of Filipino athletes. Its alumni include champions such as Jamie Lim in karate, Chris Tiu in basketball, and Japoy Lizardo in taekwondo. And on that same list sits the name of a young girl from Manila who would eventually grow up and defeat a former world number 2 on one of the biggest stages in professional tennis. The launch itself was not a symbolic photo opportunity. It was a commitment. Milo Philippines Vice President for Marketing Lawrence Lorico stood before the audience and publicly attached the company's future vision to Eala's story. The My Milo Story campaign was unveiled. A national television commercial was released. And the face chosen to represent Milo's golden anniversary became Alex Eala. But this is where the story has to remain honest. Because a documentary that ignores criticism becomes advertising. And a coronation without questions becomes a press release. So the question has to be asked. Has the commercial story begun moving faster than the competitive one? Some critics believe it has. The debate has surfaced across Filipino sports forums, Reddit discussions, Facebook comment sections, and tennis communities that follow Eala's rise closely. The argument is straightforward. Look at the endorsement portfolio. Globe Telecom has supported her since childhood. Nike has reportedly elevated her profile on the international stage. Honor Philippines has partnered with her. Nestlé Malaysia has worked with her for multiple years. And now Milo Philippines has selected her as the face of its most important anniversary campaign in half a century. For a player ranked number 35 in the world, that is a sponsorship portfolio that often resembles someone much closer to the top 10. The skeptics therefore ask a reasonable question. Where are the trophies that match the endorsements? Where is the Grand Slam breakthrough? Where is the major title that justifies the scale of the investment? It is not a hostile question. In fact, it is a question nearly every young superstar eventually faces. At some point, the commercial expectations begin chasing the competitive results. And eventually, the athlete must answer. Interestingly, that answer may already be arriving. Not in a boardroom. Not in a television commercial. But on the grass courts of Germany this very week. To understand why, it helps to look at the evidence the same way two completely different groups of professionals have looked at it. Because over the past 12 months, marketing executives and elite tennis competitors have reached a surprisingly similar conclusion about Alex Eala. One that her current ranking may not fully capture yet. Start with what is documented. The Milo launch on February 22 at SM Mega Mall is a matter of public record. Lawrence Lorico's endorsement of the partnership was reported across multiple business and marketing publications. The announcement coincided with Milo Active Pilipinas 2026 and the 50th edition of the National Milo Marathon. A national advertising campaign followed. A television commercial paired Eala alongside pole vault star E.J. Obaina, one of the most recognizable athletes in the country. Those are not rumors. Those are commitments. Real investments from a brand that has spent half a century building Filipino sports culture. Now consider what Milo actually represents. A company that has spent decades embedded inside the sporting lives of millions of Filipinos does not casually choose the face of its anniversary year. The opening leg of the National Milo Marathon drew tens of thousands of participants. Dozens of sporting events remain scheduled throughout the year. Champ runs, school partnerships, youth clinics, marathon circuits. This is not simply sponsorship. It is infrastructure. And years before Alex Eala became a professional tennis player, she was already inside that infrastructure. She attended Milo sports clinics as a child. Long before rankings. Long before endorsement deals. Long before Grand Slam main draws. Long before Roland Garros, Wimbledon, or the WTA Tour knew her name. Today, the same athlete appears on Milo's official alumni list alongside some of the country's most accomplished sporting figures. The full circle moment is not a marketing invention. It is documented reality. The child who once attended the clinic became the athlete featured in the campaign. The girl who once drank the product became the face on the advertisement. And that detail matters. Because stories in sport rarely complete their circle so perfectly. Usually something breaks along the way. The promise fades. The talent stalls. The dream changes direction. Yet somehow, in this case, the circle remained intact. Most stories like this never make it to the ending. The child loses interest. The body breaks down. The talent never fully translates. Or the brand simply chooses someone else. That is usually how the arc ends. Which is why this one stands out. The line connecting a young girl attending grassroots sports clinics to becoming the centerpiece of a national brand's 50th anniversary campaign somehow remained unbroken from beginning to end. On its own, that is remarkable. In fact, it is the kind of detail that would feel unrealistic if it appeared in a screenplay. And yet it happened. Which is exactly the story Milo is now telling. The My Milo Story campaign paired Alex Eala with E.J. Obaina, one of the most accomplished athletes the Philippines has ever produced. At first glance, it looks like a straightforward marketing decision. Look closer and it becomes something else. Both athletes compete in individual sports. Both perform on global stages. Both spend most of their professional lives standing alone against competitors backed by countries with larger systems, larger budgets, and deeper sporting infrastructures. Historically, Filipino brands have often leaned toward team sports. Basketball, volleyball, the safer domestic bets. Milo went in a different direction. It chose two athletes whose success depends almost entirely on individual performance under international pressure. That is not merely a demographic decision. It is a philosophical one. And in the months since that decision was made, the evidence supporting it has started arriving in real time. On June 17th, Alex Eala defeated Donna Vekic in the opening round of the Berlin Open. The score was 7-5, 6-4. 24 hours later came something even bigger. She defeated world number 2 Elena Rybakina. Again, 7-5, 6-4. A former Wimbledon champion. A player widely regarded as one of the most dangerous competitors on grass. And perhaps most importantly, a player Eala was not expected to beat. The victory arrived on the very surface that has historically been considered the least comfortable part of her game. Now, as this story unfolds, she prepares for a quarterfinal against 6th seed Elena Svitolina. The timing is impossible to ignore. Milo made its bet in February. The WTA Tour is auditing that bet in June. So far, the results look impressive. And the validation extends beyond commercial partnerships. Last year, ABS-CBN journalist Diane Castillo produced a documentary titled Alex Eala, Born for Center Court. The title itself belongs to the documentary. It is not a quote, not a prediction spoken by a coach, not a statement from a tennis analyst. But one detail from that project deserves attention. World number 1 Aryna Sabalenka participated in it. She gave her time. She offered her perspective. She spoke about Eala's maturity, her discipline, her competitiveness, and the qualities she had observed throughout the tour. That matters. Not because of any single sentence, but because Sabalenka did not have to participate at all. No rule requires the top-ranked player in the world to appear in a documentary centered on someone outside the top 30. She chose to. And sometimes the choice itself says more than the words. When you step back, a pattern begins to emerge. A 50-year-old national institution looked at Alex Eala and decided she was worth building a campaign around. The world's top-ranked player looked at Alex Eala and decided she was worth lending credibility to. Different industries. Different incentives. Different audiences. Yet both arrived at the same conclusion. One signed a contract. The other sat down in front of a camera. Both communicated the same message in the language their professions understand best. This athlete is worth paying attention to. And underneath all of that sits the trajectory that made those decisions possible. In mid-2024, Eala's career-high ranking stood at number 143. By March 16, 2026, she had climbed to a career-best number 29. Today she sits at number 35. She owns a victory over the world number 2 on grass. She has compiled a 24-15 record this season. She has earned nearly $800,000 in prize money during 2026 alone. No, those numbers do not yet belong to a top 10 player. But they are moving in precisely the direction MILO'S executives